Hello guys, Major Colton here with another build tutorial, and today I'm going to be showing you a build I was playing around with here recently, and honestly I've had a lot of fun with it, so I'm going to put it out for you guys as well, and hopefully you guys can enjoy it too, because it's a pretty good, decent CQC, like, close quarters combat quad. It's not like, super close, it's really just like close to mid-range, mostly like, around that mid-range. But let's go ahead and show you what we got on it. So basically it's meant for, these medium missiles right here with the 2,325 CE attack power and really 4 missile locks, and we're going to be using dual shoulder units, so you'll have 8 of these things. So imagine 8 pretty damaging battle rifle shots affixed to rockets that home into you, and that's what these are, pretty much just homing battle rifle shots, which is pretty strong when you think about it. And we're going to use that with dual Cersei's, but in this game known as the AM Bra 125. Fully spec for power, of course. Only way to go with these. So you got that really good 2,284 CE attack power. And what's so good about this build is currently the current usage of builds that seems to be running amok on the server I play on is that people on their heavy biped, people have been running some more heavy stuff here recently, but not really heavy in the slow sense, but the leg type sense. Like I've been seeing more tanks and more heavy bipeds and a lot more mediums and lightweights, less quads. So, and the thing is, the heavy bipeds especially, they're the mobility type. No one's using the armored heavies for some reason, probably because I don't know, whatever reason it is. They were, no, armored heavies were better on the second patch, quite honestly. Whenever armor meant more and people's weapons did less damage, less damage, and ping damage was a lot less. So back then, armor was more important, but right now, I guess people feel like, and I would probably feel like as well, that the mobility side of heavies is probably the way to go for now. But because of that, they have gaping huge holes in their CE armor, so none of them are going to buff that out. And most light tanks, aren't going to buff any of these out as well. And you may think, well, what if they have a CE shield? Well, honestly, CE shield is probably the least used shield I see, honestly. Mostly see KE and TE shield. But in the off chance that they do have one, then most people that would run a CE shield would be the mobility heavies and some mediums. So I have these Neodori Model 3 pulse guns on the back to, for shield breakage and for, just, blowing away people that are weak to TE that get too close. Like, if the situation demands that these would be better and more effective, or if they got a quad, these are generally effective against most quads because with the 1,149 attack power. Now I opted to use these instead of the AUMs with the way high TE defense, and or the Knuckles was pretty much the same thing. But the reason why I didn't use the Knuckles was the drain, really, and mostly drain, and then some muzzle velocity reasons, because these are easier to dodge, honestly. The Neodori Model 3s, they're one of my favorite pulse guns, honestly, because they have 6 rounds. Most of the time you're going to get effective damage, and they have 564 muzzle velocity, so they get there pretty damn quick, so they're not as easy to just strafe out of. But, they kind of just like slam into you. And when you get 2 of them, that's 12 rounds of that much damage, so it's pretty decent damage. And you can, you're firing them more than once, so these will kind of do massive damage at close range, to a quad and whatnot. And my quad, it's got a little turning performance, nothing great, but for quad, it's pretty decent. Got 671 turning performance with a high boosting speed of 295 and normal boosting speed of 148, so It's pretty mobile for a quad, and that's really what I was going for, was having it be mobile. And to get that, first for body parts, I have the L4B 107 quad legs because I like their armor to speed ratio. And for the arms, I have the AB 170 Berry Bull retrofits because of, need them dual shoulder units, and I needed KE armor. So, and they have pretty decent AP. So those are all pluses. So that's why you'd want to use those. As for the core, CB209 Haikibo retrofit. And the reason why you want to use the retrofit is for the added CE armor. As you can see, if you don't, your KE goes up by a little, but not enough to make any difference blocking out weapons wise. But it does CE wise, helps you block out, I think, a few battle rifles, and our CE armor is 2329, so by just like 4 points, we block out the very missiles we're using. And KE armor wise, we block out most rifles. We don't block out the Calendulas or the Tanzis, but anything that uses those, we're probably going to beat in a damage race, quite honestly. And if they're a quad, all we gotta do is get up on them with the pulse guns, and that would kind of mess them up because those weapons long lock on time and easy. It's pretty easy when you're close up on them to break their lock. So, as for the head, I chose the HDY F08 Daji Shinjin retrofit. Now, why did I choose this head instead of the others? Because this one, will also block out the missiles by like 1 point. Really, honestly, the reason why I picked it, and then even for camera performance, it's only a difference of like 2. So that doesn't really matter. Stability computation, only 2 doesn't matter because it's so tiny. Overall stability, like I said, still just 2 difference. So there's really no reason. I mean, they look, with all the blue, like mine, it's like, ooh, what's better? It's better, but it's like, just a couple points. So quite literally, it's so insignificant and tiny, you will not have a difference, like, at all. Turning performance difference is 1. Recoil resistance difference is 4. It's really just not any different, pretty much. It's just, this one looks way cooler. Like, quite honestly, just way cooler. Like, I liked it, and the reason why I'm using that head, by the way, is like, because as you can tell, I'm using you want to use the FCS for the missiles, to get the most out of your missiles. You want to use the FA303, but its shortcoming is that, it's got 19 lock-on sizes. Like, that's not the shortcoming, by the way. I'm just going to tell you what's good about it first. What's good about it is the 19 lock-on size, so it's super hard to get out of my lock-on. The lock-on computation is 125, so anything above 100 will really help with these battle rifles, quite honestly. And the missile lock computation is 150, and these missiles already have pretty low lock-on time, so you'll get all of your locks pretty damn quick. And the, energy consumption is fairly low in comparison to other ones, so that's always good. The only shortcoming is its lock-on range is 160, but with the 929 camera performance of this head, it's going to actually extend that lock-on range significantly, probably past the 200 range, so we're good there because of our head choice. Now, some people would probably say, why not, you need to use a Beowulf or the retrofit Vlad 3, mostly just the Vlad 3, because it's, the camera performance is the most camera performance head in the game. But, it's, the difference is, armor-wise, doesn't make a difference. Only like 300 difference of energy recovery. You actually lose speed. So, I've actually just opted to, go with the cooler looking one of the two. Like, I honestly will never use those heads again, because I always hated how they looked. And this head, pretty much the same stats. Like, other stats are so insignificant in difference that the cooler looking head of the two is going to work. Hell, you might like the other one, but I personally don't. So I use the one I think looks cool. And so that's the reason why this head is, in my opinion, the better head, because you'll look cooler and for the same exact stats pretty much. Like, this difference in stats are so insignificant that you will not affect your performance, like, at all. So don't let anyone tell you otherwise. You heard it here first. Unless someone else already told you, but then, that's probably because you were around people who know how to make stuff. But as for the generator, I chose the Makabashira Model 3 simply because we're going to be trying to go pretty fast. So I slept on the BOC H11s. Why these instead of the other two? Well, first, Tokonatsu's, well, first of all, we'd be overweight, but even if not, we weren't, it would lower our energy consumption by a lot anyways. Plus, they weigh a shit ton. So even if we weren't overweight, if we lost some other stuff, probably wouldn't be much of a speed difference because of how heavy they are and how close we'd still be to the weight line. And really, it's not worth losing these weapons pretty much, or what you want to use. And the reason we're not using this is because it consumes a way more when you boost, so you'll end up actually depleting this fairly quickly if you use that. While as these, roughly 16,000 high boost energy consumption and whatnot, these have pretty much 1,800, 18,000, high boost energy consumption with, only a little bit of difference in speed. Sure, it's faster, but you'll lose energy a lot quicker. But the main, the boosting power, what you get from the X letter button, or the square if you're on PlayStation 3, is literally only like 5 points difference. So that the X boosting or the square boosting is pretty much exactly the same. But your glide boosting with these would just be torrentially, just super way more drainy. So I just stay with these because the boosting power is pretty much exactly the same, except if you glide boost with these, then you'll just deplete it way faster. So I usually stick with these, plus the fact that these, have more energy consumption and they're heavier, so I just go with these because I've really never used these on any of my builds hardly. I either go this one or my energy recovery and weight is freed up enough that I use these. Or I just use Shinatsu's. But what else have I not talked about? As for the Recon unit, you can really use anything you want, but personally, my go-to Recon is the REX A13, mostly because you can have 5 of them out at the same time, various locations, each of them having a diameter of 320 range, and actually, Recon range is 320 now that I think of it, so, it's probably actually a range of, a diameter, that's a radius of 320. The diameter would probably be 640, since that's 320 in any given direction around it, I'm assuming. Forget me if I'm wrong. Honestly, it doesn't really matter that much. I'm just giving out extra input. And then, the operational time of 9,000 is nothing to sniff at, so they can just even after you're long gone, still have recons there and be able to see the enemy and they can't see you. And plus, it's definitely enough that you will be able to and if you have an, operator, these are really good for them because it'll keep the map lit up and scan where they, can be helping y'all and whatnot. Although I find operators aren't really worth much simply because once you all get pretty good and know what you're doing, you don't really need someone else's input to help you. Really, operators are just for help, to help the other people on the team get better, pretty much. And kind of instill things in them while they are still learning so that they'll retain certain things for when they get good and then they don't want to listen to nobody. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. I'll just, throw it against that standard, starting AC in the AC test just to show the effectability of, I'll throw it against this first, and then I have a few other UNICs I'll throw it against to show the effectability of the weapon setup. I'll throw them against this just as, weapons demonstration, and then next I'll throw it up against the UNIC that was made by some people on the server that are pretty decent. And as you can see, you can just keep them at that range and bob around so that their shit misses, and you'll just have, power rifles heading in straight at them, nonstop, while the missiles, I like the CE missiles for the fact that they arc around and kind of hit them from the side. So I mean, either way, your battle rifles or that, they can't really dodge both. If they're trying to get up on you, you know, they can't dodge both. And if they're one of those people that are like a lightweight or a midweight, they like to get super close, then you just whip out the pulse guns and, you know, get wrecked, basically. And let's see what else. Let me show this against a more robust opponent. Okay, here's my edited versions of some of Dark Salvation's UNACs that are pretty, you know, as a UNAC team, are pretty retardedly OP because of the dual shields and missile spam over them and whatnot. But, you know, after a while, people kind of got used to fighting them and just knew how to cheese them pretty much. But they're still good for testing out things against. So this seems to be like a build you see every now and then, you know. Kurosawa's VDS and shields and whatnot. Standard cookie cutter thing for a while there. I don't think people run this exact thing anymore, but it's still something similar armor-wise to what you'll see on the battlefield, so we're going to fight it real quick just to show the weapon's capability of fighting annoyingly defensed, you know, UNACs or people or whatnot. And it's what? You want to be, you know, careful of those missiles in the Sawa, however. Use cover whenever you can. Try and make the missiles slam into things. Disengage your boosters so that Sawas will miss. I'm more or less, you know, halfway trying at the moment, simply because I'm just trying to show you guys, you know, weapons capability against what you'll find on the battlefield. You gotta shoot those missiles though, because the fucking Sazanai Model 2s are just retardedly OP. And that's why I love them. As you can see, he's got, you know, pretty decent armor and everything, but except for, you know, most of the heavies are similar to this one and have low, like, below 2000 CE defense. Seems to be what people run now. So as you can see, those CE missiles kind of sidewinder or just off in the distance and come back and hit you in the side of the head. So they're pretty decent for hitting people without them noticing. So, and they're pretty surprisingly, the thing I like about them, let's go back to those missiles real quick. Clear up some misconceptions. Because they have lower flight speed, you know, top cruising speed than some of the other missiles. So people assume that means that they're not going to hit them. But the thing is, they have 460 missile guidance, which is pretty damn high. And as a person who uses VDFs a lot, you know, they have less missile guidance, but more speed. But these are actually more likely to hit you because, sure, they're going slower, but they have higher missile guidance. And what that'll do is they have, since they're slower and have this higher guidance, they have more time to correct their flight pattern, which is why they're able to sidewinder around and then come at you at weird angles and just have that pinpoint accuracy pretty much. Because they're going slower, however, they have a weird flight pattern and they're out there longer, so they have more time to correct their, you know, their flight patterns and whatnot. And all that good stuff. And yeah, if you like the build, comment, like, subscribe, tell me what you think of it, and I'll see you guys in the next video.